Hi everyone, welcome back to my next video. In this video, we're beginning the first of a series of 3 about how to buy a used vehicle to live in. Because of the pandemic and all the economy, there are a flood of people out there right now looking for vehicles. And a lot of you, it's your first time you've had to buy a vehicle that you're going to move in, and it's scary, and you really don't know how. And if you buy the wrong one, man, it's not just a car, your daily driver, it's your home. So this is a really important decision, and a lot of you are scared, and you're writing me, and I'm getting emails, Bob, how do I find a good car? How do I know it's not a lemon? And I don't want to buy a money pit and keep throwing money into it. Boy, that is so wise and so important that you think that way. So we're going to do a series of 3 videos about how not to buy a lemon, how to buy a great vehicle home. In this first video, we're going to talk about how not to buy a lemon, the actual process that you should go through while you're searching. And in the second video, we'll talk about where to search, how to search. So first we're going to teach you, this is what to watch for when you're doing your searching. And then once you've learned that, that's really how to avoid buying the lemon, then we'll teach you the websites to go to and how to expand, Craigslist, Auto Trader, those kinds of things. And then how to expand your search, because it's a seller's market right now. There are more sellers, there's so many buyers that the sellers can charge almost anything they want. And there's also a whole army of scammers out there and car flippers who just find a good deal on used car. They don't know anything about it. They go to auctions and they just stick it up there, and you get stuck with you don't know what. And they'll kind of lie to you and cheat you in the process. So it's really important that you know these things before you even begin the process. Now, I've been living in a vehicle for 19 years now, and I've owned 5 different vehicles that I've bought to live in. And I'm pretty good at it, and I know the ins and outs pretty well. But my assistant, KC, it's almost a hobby for her. She enjoys it. So every time I think about buying a vehicle, or a friend I know is looking for a vehicle, I always say, hey, KC, will you search for this? And she does an incredible job. And she has worked out a system that I think you are going to find very, very helpful. So she's actually going to come on next and show you the steps she takes not to get ripped off by a flipper or a scammer or in any way, by checking the VINs and checking the NHTSA, the safety records. There's a lot of steps you can take that will really protect yourself. And she knows them all. And also, is the model year. Say you've narrowed it down to a certain kind of car, these kinds of SUVs. She will also show you how to go on carcomplaints.com and study the different years and the different complaints. So maybe this year is a great year to buy, almost no complaints. But then the first generation, the first model year of a generation, it's terrible. And so she'll tell you how to do all those things. She's almost made a science out of it. It's really good, and I think it's going to be very, very helpful. So in this video, we'll tell you how not to buy a lemon, how to do your searching. In the next video, we will go through all the different sources online and how to get it checked out at a distance, how to do a nationwide search, just all kinds of really great tips. In the third video, we'll talk specifically about buying from a used car dealer. Should you? What are the pitfalls? What are they going to do to get the most possible money out of you, and what you can do to pay the least possible amount of money? And the reason we want to do that is because it's probably easiest to go to a used car dealer of anything. And sometimes, and I personally have gone to a dealer and bought a buy here, pay here, and it worked out really well. I paid more, but I knew I was going to have to pay more for that convenience. And so for some of you, it may be the right thing to do. For some of you, it may be the completely wrong thing to do. We'll help you to decide that. So now I'm going to turn it over to KC, and she's going to tell you how not to buy a lemon. And then make sure you come back for the next video, how to actually do the searching. So I'm going to turn it over to KC. KC, take it away.
One of the first steps when purchasing a vehicle is to check and see if the VIN is also advertised with the vehicle, and if not, to make a phone call and try to get the VIN number. What is a VIN number? A vehicle's identification number, or VIN, is the identifying code for a specific automobile. The VIN serves as the car's fingerprint, as no two vehicles in operation have the same VIN. The VIN can be used to track recalls, registrations, warranty claims, and thefts or insurance coverage. One of the most important things you can find out right away is whether or not the vehicle has a clean or salvage title, or it also might have a rebuilt title. If it has a salvage title, it most likely was in an accident and was deemed a total loss by the insurance company. The insurance provider paid the value of the vehicle, and then it was taken to a salvage company. Also, there's something called a rebuilt title. Some states have rebuilt titles, indicating that the car used to have a salvage title, but it has since been rebuilt. So it's issued a rebuilt title instead of a clean title to prevent you from paying more for the car than what it's worth. Once a car is issued a rebuilt title, it won't ever be issued a clean title again. One of the first things that you can do once you get the VIN is to run a VIN check. You can do a VIN check on Carfax.com or also on AutoCheck.com. Let's look at some of the things that a Carfax will tell you about the vehicle that you're interested in purchasing. One of the first things that shows up is how many owners the vehicle has had, and also the overall value of the vehicle and the dealer price, and whether or not that vehicle has had any accidents reported. When you see this symbol, it could just be one accident, or it could be indicating multiple accidents that the vehicle is in. The odometer reading on the VIN check is very important because you want to make sure that it matches up with the vehicle inside the dashboard on the odometer. So as we look at this Carfax, we can see that it's not junk or salvage, it's not a rebuilt title, no fire, flood, hail, or lemon report on it. And also you can check to see if there's total loss, structural damage, airbag deployment, if the odometer has had any issues or rollbacks, and the accidents, and also any recalls or warranties on the vehicle. Here we're looking at the history report on this vehicle. As we scroll down here, we're seeing the first accident or damage report, and this is in September of 2019, and we can see that there was damage to the left rear, to the rear of the vehicle, and the right rear. Now we can see the next report on the Carfax is another accident. This one was in September of 2019, and this one's in January of 2020. This is pretty extensive damage when you look at both accidents, almost to all sides of the vehicle. So now we have a tremendous amount of information before we've ever even gone to see the vehicle, just by running the VIN report. And so I can't stress enough the importance of running a VIN report. And usually I will not go even look at a vehicle until I can run this first. You might run into people who do not want to give you the VIN. In that case, I would just pass on that vehicle. It might be a reason that they don't want to give you the VIN report. Typically, an AutoCheck or Carfax report will cost approximately $24 per report, or you might be able to buy a package of 6 for about $100. It's absolutely worth the money. The $24 you might spend on a Carfax report could save you thousands of dollars in the long run. If you don't want to pay for a report, there's a little bit that you can find out by simply going to nicb.org, and here you can do a VIN check to look it up. And this vehicle was not identified as having a theft record, or whether or not there's a total loss record on it. And this vehicle has not been identified as having a total loss. Other places to find a free VIN check would be on the dealerships or on Carfax.com. You can look for used vehicles there and find a Carfax report with every vehicle listed. And also on AutoTrader, If you find a vehicle on AutoTrader, there's usually a VIN Check report attached from Carfax or AutoCheck. On CarComplaints.com, you can find out a lot about the specific make, model, and year, and what were some of the problems for those specific years. So let's take a look under Chevy, and it will bring you to every vehicle that Chevy has made. On this first page, you can see how many complaints each specific model has. So overall, right off the bat, we can see that an Impala had quite a lot of complaints, as did the Silverado and an Equinox. But let's take a look at the Chevy Express. With only 74 overall complaints, that's pretty good. And the same thing with the Astrovan at 77. Now, when we look at the Chevy Express, we can overall take a look by year. And we can see that overall, it didn't have a lot of complaints on any year. But if we scroll down to the bottom, it will tell you the worst Chevy Express problems overall. You can check out all of the years and see which one might be the best fit for you. Now let's take a look at a different type of van. We can click here on Dodge and go down to the Grand Caravan. Here we can see this vehicle had 3,185 complaints. So let's take a look at what they were and what the years were. And here, let's take a look at one of the worst years. So we can see that having a Dodge Caravan, you're not going to have a lot of problems in the most recent years. But let's say you've purchased a 2005 Dodge Caravan. In that case, you can see that interior accessory problems were really an issue with this year. Let's look at interior accessory problems, and you can see that one significant problem that really stands out is that the power door locks are not working. So you can see that Car Complaints is just really handy in finding out specifically make, model, and year specific problems for the vehicle that you're interested in purchasing. The third method that I use for finding out about problems or complaints about specific vehicle make, model, and year is to visit the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. On this site, you can enter a VIN number here and find out a little more about recalls or possibly some safety concerns that you might have with that vehicle. So let's go ahead and enter the same vehicle VIN number. So here we've entered the same vehicle VIN number, and here it will give us the unrepaired recalls on this vehicle. And so there are no recalls associated with this VIN number. The other thing you can find out on this site is about the Takata recall and whether or not your vehicle had a Takata airbag in it. As you can see here, tens of millions of vehicles with Takata airbags are under recall. So this goes across all makes of vehicles. One of the most dangerous things about the Takata airbag recall is that those vehicles that were exposed to long-term heat and humidity have more of a tendency to explode when deployed. And these explosions, as it says here, have caused injuries and deaths. The reason for the Takata recall is that they had used a volatile ammonium nitrate to create a small explosion and inflate the airbags in case of a crash. But the chemical can become more volatile over time when exposed to moisture in the air. The explosion can blow apart in a metal canister and hurl shrapnel into the passenger or the compartment. So it's really important to find out whether or not your vehicle has a Takata airbag and if there is a current recall on that vehicle for that airbag to be replaced. You can also see in the Carfax report, it will tell you whether or not the airbag has been replaced on that vehicle or if there's still an open recall. So again, you just go to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration where you can put the VIN in and it will tell you whether or not there is a Takata recall. It's really important to get the fair market value or have an idea of that before you visit the vehicle. So you can look it up on a few different websites. In fact, there are many where you can find the value of the vehicle, and I'll just point out a few here. Of course, there's Edmunds.com, there's also Kelley Blue Book, and there's NADA Guides. So those are just a few to get you started. Another thing to be aware of are people who are online selling cars on Facebook Marketplace and also on Craigslist, who are purchasing them at auctions and turning over many car sales at a time. So there are a couple different ways to spot whether or not someone is selling many different vehicles and they're actually presenting themselves as a private seller, but in actuality, they're visiting the car auctions and selling multiple vehicles at a time. So here we are on Facebook Marketplace, and you might put in any type of vehicle that you're looking for in Marketplace and start a search. And so here I've done a search on minivans, and we found a minivan that looks pretty good. Here it's a 2005 Toyota Sienna, and it's at a great price. So that looks good. And so if we click on that private seller's name, so if we click right here on the seller's name, it will show us how many vehicles that seller currently is listing. So here we can see that this person is simultaneously selling 6 other vehicles in addition to this one. And sometimes you might click on their name here and they might be selling way more than 7 cars. For example, this person is selling 32 vehicles at one time. So that's just a little bit of a Facebook Marketplace hack to use to find out if someone is just selling one vehicle or multiple vehicles. So it's very likely that a lot of these vehicles came from an auction. They might have a salvage title. They might have some other type of damage that you might want to look out for. So now let's take a look at Craigslist and see if we can recognize someone who might be presenting themselves as a private seller who's actually selling multiple vehicles. One quick way you can tell, well, when you go on a Craigslist, for example, you'll go to cars and trucks, and then you'll click on for sale by owner. Often a lot of people would prefer to buy for sale by owner, but that person might be representing themselves as a private seller when in actuality they're buying a lot of cars on auction and selling them on Craigslist. So for example, here's a Toyota Highlander. So if we click on that, and then scroll down and you'll be able to get a phone number, and you can copy that phone number and go ahead and put that in the search bar for owner of cars and trucks and wherever you're at, and then go ahead and click search. And so these are all the vehicles that come up under that phone number. And so you can see that this person is listing a lot of vehicles. So just to check it out and make sure this is really what's happening, we can see this phone number again here. So that's one quick way that you can tell if someone is selling multiple vehicles on Craigslist. The other thing to watch out for when you're on Craigslist and you're on Facebook, one of the first questions that I ask them once I call on a vehicle is you want to find out if the car is registered in their name. More often than not, someone who's purchasing a lot of vehicles from auctions or other places, they don't want to take the time or the expense to register it in their own name. So often their reply will be that they're selling this car for a friend or for their mom or for their grandmother. So in my own personal experience, that's just a red flag, so I wouldn't purchase it whose name is not on the registration for the vehicle that they're selling. By doing a pre-purchase inspection, you can find out if the car is safe to drive and what are some required repairs. And then you can use what the mechanic is telling you, possibly for negotiations over the price of the vehicle. So you can set up a pre-purchase inspection with your mechanic or any certified automotive shop, or you can also get it checked out at the dealership, or you can have a mobile car mechanic come out and check it out where you're going to buy it. So they can come to you and just take an overall look at it. But unless they can get the car lifted inside the shop, they won't be able to really tell until they hoist the car up and look underneath it for all the potential problems. So then you can use that inspection report when you are negotiating out the price. Finding the right car to purchase for you might take some time and you might have some ups and downs in the process. But overall, just remember, first you can get a VIN and do a VIN check, and that's going to tell you a lot about the car. You can also make sure that it has a clean title and it's not a salvage or a rebuilt title. Next, you can find out about problems about that vehicle using car complaints, NHTSA, or doing a complete VIN check. Also, you can find out what the fair market value is of the vehicle so that you're not overpaying. And when you're searching online, make sure to do a few simple checks so that you know that the person is not flipping cars or purchasing them at auction. And finally, make sure you have a mechanic do a pre-purchase inspection. Thanks so much for listening. I hope that this was helpful for you, and I wish you the best of luck in your search for your new vehicle home.
Thank you so much, Casey. You can see from all the information that she has that this is a hobby. It's something she does for pleasure, and she really enjoys it. And she's like all of us. She can't just buy a used car and have it be a money pit where she throws money in. And so I think those are really, really great tips. So this is a great start in buying your new vehicle. Next, you'll want to know exactly where do I go and how do I search. So be sure to stay tuned for the next video where we'll talk about specifically where to go to find the best vehicle you possibly can. And we'll also talk about how to get it checked out at a distance, because it's such a seller's market and vehicles go so fast that you may have to expand your search and even buy further away than you would really prefer. We'll talk about how to get it checked out at a distance, how to get it back to you. And then in the third video, we'll talk about used car dealers, because some of you may be forced to go to a buy here, pay here. I've done that, and it worked out really well for me. But you want to know the ins and outs so that you don't get ripped off, because there are a lot of them that will rip you off at a used car dealer. But there's some good, honest ones too, and we'll talk about all the details and the ins and outs of navigating a used car lot. So I hope this is helping you. I hope this is, if you're forced into a vehicle, this whole series will get you into the very best possible vehicle you can at the very lowest price. And that's what we hope for you, that by the time you've watched all three in this series, you can buy a vehicle, be fairly confident you've done everything you can to get a good one, and it's a great one. So I sure hope that for you. Okay, if you got anything out of this video, like us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit that thumbs up button, and we'll talk to you.